And welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Great to have you in the conversation today. Got a lot of stuff we want to get to today. It's kind of clean out the fridge Friday. Got a lot of interesting clips and sound bites and stories that I want to go over with you today. Let's begin, Rob, with clip number one. And this is to give you an auditory, I don't know what word to use, an auditory illustration of the impact of abortion on American history. Now, what you're going to hear, it's kind of a novel way to illustrate this, where you have the sound of a BB hitting the side of a can. And one BB hitting the side of a can represents 10,000 American deaths. Now, the commentator, Peter Heck is his name, I want you to listen as he walks you through the comparison between the number of American deaths in the Revolutionary War, the number of American deaths in the Civil War, number of American deaths in World War I, number of American deaths in World War II, number of American deaths in the Korean War, number of American deaths in the Vietnam War, the number of American deaths on 9/11, and the number of American deaths due to abortion. Listen.
Right where you are, I just want you to, right there in your seats, just shut your eyes. What you're about to hear are the sounds of metal BBs striking the side of a tin can. For every BB that strikes, it represents 10,000 lives lost in the wars of America's past. 10,000 lives for every BB. This is the reality of what is occurring in your country. The American Revolution, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, the Korean conflict, the conflict in Vietnam, September 11th and the War on Terror. Since 1973, the War on the Unborn Child.
Now, I don't know about you, but I find that compelling and almost overwhelming. Now, Russia is experiencing a huge problem. They've got severe underpopulation problems, and that's part of what's behind their ban on foreign abortions. You've heard that Putin has banned foreign abortions, that the United States was accustomed to aborting children that were unwanted in Russia. He's banned that practice. There have been about 60,000 adoptions by American couples since the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. But Putin is concerned about the fact that abortion is bleeding his population. Russia's population is going to drop from 150 million today to 104 million by 2050. They are losing 750,000 people a year, and a lot of that is due to the prevalence of abortion. Now, the Bolsheviks legalized abortion back in 1917. It's been legal in Russia now for about, 96 years. Now, by 1934, Moscow women were having 3 abortions for every live birth. Joseph Stalin, this guy's a mass murderer, probably 30 to 50 million deaths under his hands. He actually banned abortion in 1936 because even Joseph Stalin could see the damage that it was doing. Now, Nikita Khrushchev, 1955, reinstituted legalized abortions. And by 1958, just 3 years later, there were 5 million abortions every year in the Soviet Union. Smaller population than the United States, 5 million abortions a year. In the United States, is about 1.2 million. So by 1965, they had 8.2 million abortions every year. And they're having other problems. Because of abortion, 13% of Russian couples are infertile, and that is a rising total. 3 of the 4 cases, infertility is attributed to the woman, typically because of the complications from having one or more abortions. They're having about 1.7 abortions for every live birth. So finally, 2003, Putin implemented the first restrictions on abortion in Russia since 1955, limiting abortions to the first 12 weeks of gestation. And to boost the fertility rate, catch this, he's going to bring the group Boys to Men to do a concert in Russia for the purpose of encouraging the Russian people to conceive children. And he set a standard that every Russian family ought to have at least 3 children. Now, he doesn't even know it, I'm sure, but this is the evangelical standard. I've been over this before. God said, Genesis 1:28, never changed his mind about this, never retracted the cultural mandate, be fruitful and multiply. Now, the replacement rate is 2.1. If the woman has an average of 2.1, every woman has an average of 2.1 kids, they replace themselves. The population stays stable. But God didn't say be fruitful and add, or be fruitful and replace yourselves. He said be fruitful and multiply. In order to do that, you got to have at least 3 children per woman, and I think that ought to be the evangelical standard today. Now, let's shift gears just a little bit. Chuck Hagel, why don't we grab, while we're on that, Rob, let's grab clip number 7. This is Senator Paul. And again, this goes back to Senator Paul and the issue of his friendship with Israel. And I believe that Senator Rand Paul is and would be, as president, a genuine, true friend of Israel. And part of it is because of his desire to keep F-16s out of the hands of a government that believes Jews are apes and pigs and believes that the Holocaust never happened. Here's what he had to say yesterday.
This amendment would have stopped the transfer of F-16s and of Abrams tanks to Egypt. You know, you've seen those pictures of tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people rioting in the street. Does that look like a stable country to you? Combine that with some of the comments by President Morsi that were translated to say that Jews were bloodsuckers and descendants of apes and pigs. It doesn't sound like a country we should be sending our most advanced weapons to. I don't understand the other side. The other side up here, I think just they're so used to doing one thing. They're so used to having unlimited money, and they're so used to the fact that they think we should buy our friends. They just keep doing the same thing, but I think it's wrong.
So that's Senator Rand Paul, I think, sent a strong note on Egypt and on Israel. Number to call, by the way, 888-589-8840 if you want to join the program. Free for all Friday. Talk about anything you want, 888-589-8840. Now, Chuck Hagel had a really tough day. He is President Obama's choice to be the next Secretary of Defense. He had a miserable day yesterday giving testimony. And the reality is President Obama doesn't even care, because all he's there to do is to be a rubber stamp for his view of the American military and America's role in the world. President Obama is a friend of Islam, and Chuck Hagel is a friend of Islam. That's all that matters to Barack Obama. Barack Obama wants to unilaterally disarm the United States from nuclear weapons. That's exactly what Chuck Hagel talked about 2 years ago. Barack Obama is a friend of the Islamic world. He's a better friend of the Islamic world than he is to Israel. And Senator Hagel is exactly the same. So Barack Obama doesn't even care that the guy's inept, that he's incompetent, that he's ignorant, that he doesn't have any idea what he's talking about. It doesn't matter to Barack Obama. He likes Chuck Hagel because philosophically, as much of a stumble bum as he was yesterday, is aligned with Barack Obama philosophically. Now, he had a big trouble yesterday. Clip number 2 here, Rob. This is Chris Matthews. Chris Matthews trying to explain why Chuck Hagel had such a tough day yesterday. And, of course, because Chris Matthews is a winger left, he's uber left, couldn't have anything to do with Hagel's competence. It's got to do with the animus, the bigotry, and the hatred of the conservative right in America. Let's listen.
Then let me start tonight with this. The boiling hatred of the American right poured over today in hearings on Chuck Hagel's nomination to be Secretary of Defense. Hatred, pure and simple, seeped from the mouths of John McCain and Lindsey Graham as they slashed away at war hero Hagel. Badgering the witness is too nice a description of what went on today. The hawks swirled like buzzards, sweeping down, pecking and pulling at the skin of a former colleague who dared to say this country's been too ready to enter wars the American people quickly wish we'd never gotten into. What's with this hatred, now centered in the American Sun Belt? What do we make of this poll showing that 2 out of 3 Texas Republicans now want our president impeached? Why the cussedness? Why the range war? Why the hatred of anyone who dares to stand with Obama? Why can't politics be a matter of belief and honest disagreement, not hatred? Why the sick little intramurals we saw today?
And of course, the reality is this was a matter of disagreement. It wasn't a matter of hatred. Nobody hates Chuck Hagel. No Republican hates Chuck Hagel, not a single one of them. But for the left, remember, for them, disagreement is, in fact, hatred. Now, let's grab clip number 3 very quickly. CNN, they're not fooled. They know that he was just inept. Let's listen.
It was all the buzz on the floor that they were very surprised that Senator Hagel, from their point of view, many people, Democrats and Republicans, is simply not doing as well as many people thought he would. In fact, one senator told me that it is all the talk, I mean all the talk, that the senators are shocked about how ill-prepared he is on some of the most basic controversial comments that he made that he and everybody knew were going to be coming at him from the likes of Senator John McCain and Lindsey Graham and others. Even a Democrat who's on this committee, who I spoke to, who is supporting Hagel, sort of shaking his head in disbelief, saying that he is surprised that he's not more forceful. And another undecided senator on this committee said that he had 3 different ways to answer the question on the surge, that he simply got into it with on John McCain. So simply put, there is, as I said, disbelief, primarily not just because of the fact that, as Jessica reported, he had 3 murder board sessions to prepare for this, but because he's been on the other side of the dais. He knows how this works.
So that's Dana Bash, CNN. She's saying, hey, this had nothing to do with hatred. This guy was ill-prepared. They had senators shaking their heads in disbelief at his ineptness and incompetence. Focal Point AFR Talk.